Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful forces on Earth, a force that shapes wars, controls nations, influences elections, and decides whether countries rise or collapse. That force is the US dollar. This is the real story of how the American dollar became the most powerful currency in human history, and how the United States built an economic empire without armies, without invasions, but through something far more subtle and far more dangerous. This is the story of how America controls the global economy. The birth of the dollar. Our story begins in 1792. America was young, fragile, and unknown. The world was ruled by Europe, Britain, France, Spain, and currencies were chaotic. Then came the Coinage Act of 1792. For the first time, the United States declared, "We will create our own currency." But no one could have imagined that this simple currency would one day dominate the world. George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Early American Economy. Founding Father Alexander Hamilton designed the dollar not just as money, but as a weapon, an instrument for building national power. The dollar was backed by silver and gold. It wasn't special yet. It was just another currency. But history was about to change. World War I, America steps in. For over a century, the world's dominant currency was the British pound. London was the world's financial center. The British Empire was everywhere. But in 1914, the world broke. World War I begins. Europe is burning. Britain and France are drowning in war debt. Their gold reserves collapsed. And when a global empire runs out of money, someone else must step in. And that someone was the United States. For the first time in history, countries began borrowing money in dollars. America wasn't just helping. America was slowly replacing Britain. The dollar was rising, silently. Bretton Woods, the day America took over. 1944. World War II is almost over. Europe is destroyed. Japan is destroyed. Only one country remains powerful, rich, and stable: the United States. Bretton Woods Conference begins. 44 countries meet in a small hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. One decision is made that will change the world forever. They declare that from now on, every currency in the world will be tied to the US dollar. And the dollar itself? It will be tied to gold. This was the moment the American empire was born, not through war, but through finance. If you wanted to trade, you needed dollars. If you wanted oil, you needed dollars. If you wanted to grow, you needed dollars. The United States became the banker of the world. The secret deal with Saudi Arabia. Then came 1971. America was printing more dollars than it had gold. Countries noticed and demanded their gold back. And President Nixon made a shocking announcement. The United States will no longer convert dollars to gold. The world panicked. If the dollar wasn't backed by gold, why would anyone use it? America needed a new source of power, a new anchor for the dollar. And they found it in the deserts of the Middle East. Cut to Saudi Arabia. In 1974, the U.S. made a secret deal with Saudi Arabia. The agreement was simple. Saudi Arabia would sell oil only in U.S. dollars. In exchange, America would protect the kingdom. This gave birth to something called the petrodollar system, and it changed everything. If you wanted oil, you needed dollars. If you wanted energy, you needed dollars. The world became addicted, not to oil, but to the American dollar. The dollar as a weapon. With the petrodollar established, the U.S. discovered a new kind of power. Not military power, not political power, but financial power. By controlling the world's currency, America could now sanction countries, block their banking systems, freeze their assets, collapse their economies, influence their governments, all without firing a single bullet. This was economic warfare. Examples: Iran's banking shutdown, Venezuela's dollar restrictions, Russia's assets frozen, Cuba's decades-long blockade, Afghanistan's dollar reserves seized. When the U.S. punishes a country economically, they don't suffer alone. Their entire population suffers. The dollar had become a weapon, one stronger than any army. Why no country can escape the dollar? Today, almost 90% of global trade is done in dollars. 60% of all foreign reserves are held in dollars, and nearly all oil is bought with dollars. But why can't countries escape it? Let's break it down. 1. Global trade runs in dollars. Ships, containers, logistics, commodities, all priced in USD. 2. Countries save dollars. They store dollars like treasure to protect their economies. 3. Banks depend on dollars. Most international transactions go through American banks. 4. The U.S. military protects the system. America has 750-plus bases worldwide. The dollar's value is tied to U.S. military dominance. In simple words, the dollar is powerful because the world needs it, and the world needs it because it's powerful. The rise of China, a new challenger. But every empire has competition, and America's biggest challenger is China. China launched the petro-yuan. China built the Belt and Road Initiative. China created its own international bank. China reduced its U.S. Treasury bonds. It is building a world where countries won't need the dollar. But the problem is simple: trust. For China's currency to replace the dollar, the world must trust China's government, its financial system, its transparency. And right now, they don't. Cryptocurrency and the threat to the dollar. Then came Bitcoin. For the first time in history, money existed that no government controlled. Bitcoin challenged the idea of centralized money. Ethereum challenged banks. Stablecoins challenged payments. Even the U.S. Federal Reserve took notice and began building a digital dollar. Will crypto end the dollar's dominance? Maybe, but not now, because crypto is young, unstable, unregulated, and no country wants to depend on something they can't control. How America keeps control today. Today, the United States uses three main tools to maintain global dominance. 1. The Federal Reserve, the world's banker, controls interest rates that affect global markets. 2. SWIFT, the global financial network, used to track and approve payments between countries. 3. U.S. Treasury bonds, the safe haven. Countries buy American debt to store value. Whenever there's war, crisis, disaster, money runs toward the dollar, not away from it. What happens if the dollar falls? Imagine this for a moment. The dollar collapses. What happens? Oil becomes expensive. World trade collapses. Stock markets crash. Global banks fail. Countries lose their savings. Recessions spread everywhere. The truth is, if the dollar falls, the entire world falls with it. The future of the dollar. So will the dollar remain king forever? Maybe not, but no other currency is even close. Not China's yuan, not Europe's euro, not Bitcoin. For now, the United States still controls the world's money, and as long as the world depends on oil, trade, banking, and stability, it will continue to depend on the dollar. This was the real story of the U.S. dollar, the silent empire that rules the world. If you enjoyed today's documentary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep history and storytelling. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.